Hey, let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room and felt invisible? You feel like a ghost in the room, present but unseen. You speak, but your words dissolve into thin air before they land. Not because you were quiet, not because you didn't try, but because no one even noticed you were there. You show up early, you work hard, you hold the door, you smile, you play nice, and still, people overlook you. They cut you off mid-sentence, ignore your ideas, or walk right past you like you're part of the wallpaper. I know how frustrating that feels. You probably ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't they taking me seriously? Here's the truth I want you to hear today. Respect isn't about noise. It's about presence. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room or the one constantly trying to impress people. No, it's about carrying a quiet power, an inner strength that says, without a single word, I know who I am. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, put it perfectly. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. So listen, I'm not here to tell you to chase approval. I'm here to remind you, you don't have to prove yourself. You have to become yourself. And here's the real question for you, my friend. How do you do that? How do you go from being overlooked to being the person everyone instinctively respects? Let's break it down together. Starting with the first principle. 1. Stop explaining yourself. Own your decisions. Let me talk straight to you. No sugarcoating. If you can't say no without turning it into a performance, you're sending one loud, clear message. I don't trust myself. Every extra excuse you add, every nervous explanation you pile on, chips away at your authority. It tells people, hey, I need you to sign off on my choices because I'm not sure they're valid on their own. Sound harsh? Good, because here's the truth. People respect clarity, not clutter. Picture this. A friend invites you out. Instead of just saying, hey, I can't tonight, you panic. You stack on excuses. I've got work, I'm exhausted, the weather's bad, and my cat's sick. By the end, you're not just over-explaining. You're undermining yourself. Why does this happen? Simple. We're afraid people will think we're rude, selfish, or uncaring if we don't soften our no. But here's the twist. The more you scramble to be liked, the less people respect you. Let me tell you when this hit me. A while back, a buddy asked me to help him move. I was wiped, burned out, physically and mentally. Did I just say, hey man, I can't today? No. I gave him the full Netflix drama. I've got chores, deadlines, and yeah, my cat's acting weird. You know what he said? Dude, just say you don't want to. That was a gut punch. But it taught me something I'll never forget. Over-explaining is insecurity in disguise. It's a way of saying, I'm not sure my boundaries are enough on their own, so let me pad them with justifications. Here's where Stoic wisdom cuts through the noise. Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In other words, the power's in your response, not in the details you wrap it with, not in making sure everyone's happy, but in calmly owning your stance. Look around at the people you admire, the real leaders, the ones who shift a room without raising their voice. What do they have in common? When they say no, it's clean, it's confident, it's final. They're not cruel, they're not cold, but they're crystal clear. So here's my challenge to you this week. Next time you want to say no, don't reach for a lifeline. Don't dance around it. Take a breath, look the person in the eye, and say, thanks for thinking of me, But I can't. That's it. No backtracking, no guilt, no defensive monologue. And when you do this dash, not just once, but consistently, you'll notice something fascinating. People will start treating your words with more weight. You'll feel lighter, clearer, and here's the best part. You'll stop needing their approval just to stand by your own choices. 2. Protect your time. Be the gatekeeper of your life. All right, let's get brutally honest. If you don't protect your time, if you don't stand guard at the gates of your own life, the world will devour it, and it won't even apologize. Your time, my friend, is your most valuable currency. It's the one thing you can't earn back, can't deposit in a bank, can't pause, then can't rewind. Yet, and here's the irony, most people treat time like it's unlimited. We say yes to every coffee invite, every quick favor, every meeting, every notification. We guard our money like hawks, but we hand out our hours like free samples at a grocery store. Tell me, does this sound familiar to you? Because it sure used to be my life. I said yes to everything. Extra shifts? Sure, I'll step up. Helping plan someone's birthday? Of course. Random meetings? I'm there. My calendar, a battlefield. But none of the battles were mine. I remember looking at my schedule one day and realizing there wasn't a single block of time set aside just for me. I was living on other people's agendas. And the cost? My health, my creativity, my peace. That was my wake-up call. Here's where Stoic wisdom slaps you awake. Seneca, one of the sharpest minds in Stoicism, said, "People are frugal in guarding their property, but as soon as it comes to wasting time, they are most wasteful." Translation? You'd never leave your door wide open and let strangers raid your fridge. But every day, you let people raid your calendar, steal your attention, and drain your energy. So, how do you flip the script? Start small. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you open your inbox, before the world's noise crashes in. Sit down and write 3 priorities. Not 10, not a wish list. 3. These are your non-negotiables. They get your focus. They get your energy. They get done no matter what. Because when you decide what matters, you stop living in reaction mode. You stop letting everyone else dictate your life. And here's something interesting I've learned. When you start protecting your time, people notice. At first, some will push back. They'll call you selfish or say, "Oh, you're too busy for me now." But over time, they adjust. They begin to respect you more. Why? Because you're sending a clear message. My time has value, and so do I. You change the room without raising your voice. You stop being available 24/7. And that scarcity, it breeds respect. Let me offer you a challenge. This week, when someone asks for your time, pause. Ask yourself, is this aligned with my priorities, or is this just noise? If it's not urgent and if it's not important, you have the right to say, "Not today." And here's where it gets even more powerful. Because once you master protecting your time, you'll face a bigger battle, standing your ground when people challenge your values, your ideas, and your truth. And that, my friend, is where the real test of respect begins. And once you've nailed that, you're ready for the next step. Because what's even more valuable than approval? Your time. And that, my friend, is where the real power move begins. 3. Stand your ground. Calm strength wins. Let me get straight with you. If you don't stand your ground, people will walk all over you. You might think avoiding conflict makes you the nice one, the peacemaker, the mature adult. But here's the brutal truth. Avoiding conflict at all costs doesn't earn you respect. It earns you a spot at the bottom of the food chain. Every time you stay silent, when something matters, every time you swallow your opinion. To keep the peace, you're teaching people how to treat you. And guess what? They learn fast. They learn you're the one they can interrupt, talk over, dump extra work on, and push aside when it's convenient. Let me share a personal story, because I've been there. A few years ago, I was part of a team project. I worked my tail off. Late nights, early mornings, handling tasks no one else wanted. Presentation day came. We stood in that room, and right there, my team leader took the mic and claimed credit for everything. I froze. My brain screamed, "Speak up!" But my mouth stayed shut. I told myself, don't cause a scene, be the bigger person. You know what I walked away with? Regret. And a quiet message to the entire room, he can be ignored. But here's the twist. The next project, I made a promise to myself, never again. When presentation day came and the leader tried to pull the same move, I calmly raised my hand and said, I'd like to share how I contributed to this project. Was it awkward? Yes. Did my voice shake a little? Absolutely. But you know what happened? Afterward, my boss pulled me aside and said, I respect you for speaking up. That moment shifted my reputation. And more importantly, it shifted how I saw myself. Here's the Stoic angle you need to know. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Translation: when you stand your ground, do it without anger, without pettiness, without sinking to their level. Real strength isn't loud. It's calm. It's measured. It's the kind of energy that makes people stop and rethink. Look at Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison. Humiliated, beaten, dehumanized. And yet when he walked free, he didn't come back spitting fire. He came back composed, focused, and determined to build peace. That's what made him unstoppable. So here's my challenge to you. The next time someone tries to steamroll you, pause, take a breath. And calmly, clearly, stand your ground. Say, here's my perspective. Orient, that's not okay with me. No need to shout, no need to dominate. Just clear, firm boundaries. And here's the warning, standing your ground once isn't enough. Because without consistency, without follow-through, all the respect you're building, it starts to crumble. That's where we're heading next. 4. Keep your word. Consistency builds respect. Let me be brutally honest with you. Talk is cheap. Follow-through is rare. We live in a world where people throw promises around like confetti. I'll call you back. Let's grab coffee soon. Don't worry, I got this. And 9 times out of 10, it's just noise. But here's the truth you need to hear. If you want people to respect you, if you want to become someone others can count on, you have to close the gap between what you say and what you do. That's where real power lives. Let me tell you a story that hit this home for me. A few years ago, I was working on a big team project. Deadlines were tight, stakes were high. One of my colleagues, a master of big talk, they'd say, "Relax, I've got it covered." But when crunch time came, they vanished. Excuses rolled in. The team scrambled, and over time, no one trusted them, even when they meant well. Now contrast that with what I did. I promised I'd handle a critical part of the project. And guess what happened? The night before the deadline, my laptop crashed. Absolute chaos. Did I throw in the towel? Did I fire off a last-minute excuse? No. I pulled an all-nighter. I stayed up till 3 a.m., rebuilding every piece from scratch. Was it exhausting? Yes. But here's what mattered. The next morning, when I walked into that room with the work done, my team saw me differently. They knew I wasn't just talk, I was action. Here's the Stoic truth behind this. In Stoicism, integrity means one thing: your actions match your values. You don't just believe in honesty, you practice it. You don't just believe in reliability, you embody it. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And one of the biggest wastes? Making empty promises that drain trust and erode your own self-respect. So how do you build this muscle? Start small. This week, commit to one thing. Just one. It could be as simple as, I will work out 3 times. I will call my mum. I will finish this project. And here's the key. Do it. No excuses, no half steps, no, I forgot. Because every time you follow through, you reinforce a powerful message: I can trust myself. And when you trust yourself, others start trusting you too. Here's the bonus. You don't have to promise big things to earn respect. Promise small things and deliver them consistently. Because consistency, that's what builds a reputation. And here's the bridge to where we're going next. Once you learn to keep your word to others, there's an even harder challenge waiting: keeping your word to yourself. That means cutting the excuses, ditching the complaints, and doing the work, even when no one's watching. And that, my friend, is where you stop being a talker and start becoming unstoppable. 5. Stop complaining, start acting. All right, let's get painfully real. Complaining is easy, action is hard. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Only action, not words, changes the game. Look, we all know that one person. Maybe you've been that person. I know I have. They're always saying, I'm so overwhelmed. I have no time. I can't catch a break. But here's the kicker. Half the time, the problem isn't the situation. It's how we're choosing to handle it. Let me tell you about myself. There was a period when I was constantly complaining about being too busy. Too many deadlines, too many responsibilities, no time to rest. But if you looked closer, I was wasting hours on distractions, mindless scrolling, binge-watching shows, saying yes to things I didn't even care about. The problem wasn't my schedule. The problem was my priorities. One day, a friend called me out. They said, "You don't have a time problem, you have a focus problem." Oof, that hit hard. But you know what? They were right. That day, I made a decision. No more complaining, only action. Here's the Stoic principle that reshaped everything for me. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Translation: you can't control the traffic, your boss, or the economy, but you can control how you respond. Complaining keeps you stuck. It gives you the illusion you're doing something, when really, you're just marinating in frustration. But action, even small action, creates momentum. So here's what I want you to try. For the next 7 days, keep a complaint journal. But here's the twist. Don't just write down what you're upset about. Next to every complaint, write one solution. Example: I'm exhausted. Go to bed 30 minutes earlier. My boss doesn't listen. Schedule a focused 10-minute meeting. I don't have time to work out. Replace 15 minutes of scrolling with a walk. Do this, and you'll start to see something incredible. You'll shift from victim mode to problem solver mode. And when people see you solving problems, instead of just pointing at them, you become magnetic. You stop being the person they avoid, and start being the person they admire. Because here's the truth, nobody respects a constant complainer. But people do respect the one who rolls up their sleeves and gets to work. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop focusing only on your own struggles, you unlock something even more powerful. You learn to lift others up, not just yourself. And that, my friend, is the silent superpower we're diving into next. Celebrate others, the silent power move. Let me take you into something that most people completely underestimate. Celebrating others is one of the most powerful, quietest signs of strength. But here's the paradox. The people who need this the most often resist it the hardest. Why? Because deep down we confuse someone else's success with our own failure. It's subtle. Your colleague gets the promotion you secretly wanted. Your friend buys the house. While you're still renting, someone you know hits a milestone you've been chasing for years, and inside there's that sting, that small, sharp whisper. Why not me? What's wrong with me? I know that voice, because I've heard it too. A few years ago, I applied for an internship. That felt like the golden ticket. I put in the work, lost sleep, visualized the yes email, like it was already mine. And then the rejection came. Who got in? One of my closest friends. For a moment, I felt the weight in my chest, that tight, uncomfortable knot of envy and self-doubt. But here's where it changed. I caught myself. I took a deep breath. I walked over to him, looked him in the eye, and said, "You deserved this. I'm genuinely happy for you." No, it didn't erase my disappointment. But you know what it did? It expanded me. It shifted me from a scarcity mindset, where someone else's win feels like my loss, into an abundance mindset, where their victory reminds me what's possible. And here's the unexpected twist. Months later, that same friend came back, recommended me for an even bigger opportunity. Not because I asked, not because I schemed, but because respect is earned in the quiet moments when no one's keeping score. Here's the Stoic depth behind this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When another's fault offends you, turn to yourself and consider what similar shortcomings are in you." Applied here, when someone's success stings, it's a mirror. It reveals where you feel insufficient, impatient, or insecure. But instead of collapsing into envy, you have a choice. You can rise. You can choose to clap, to cheer, to elevate, not just for them, but for the kind of person you want to become. Because here's what most people miss. Lifting others up doesn't lower you. It raises both of you. Every time you celebrate someone else, you strengthen the bridge between who you are and who you aspire to be. So here's my challenge to you. This week, when someone shares a win, pause. Notice the flicker of jealousy, the flash of self-doubt, and instead of shrinking, lean in. Say, "That's incredible. I'm proud of you." Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because that moment, when you choose grace over comparison, that's where true power lives. And here's the bridge to the next step. If you can master celebrating others, when it's easy, the next level is standing up for others. When it's hard. And that, my friend, is where you stop being admired and start becoming unforgettable. Stand up for others, even when no one's watching. Let me ask you a question that most people dodge. When was the last time you stood up for someone? Not because it benefited you, not because it looked good, but because it was the right thing to do. Not when it was easy, not when the crowd was on your side. But when the room was cold, the moment was tense, and your voice was the only one, ready to break the silence. That's where real character is forged. Most people think respect is earned by being impressive, by achieving big things, by standing on the winner's podium. But the truth, the people who stay in our hearts the longest, are the ones who stood for us when no one else would. Let me take you back to a moment that changed me. A few years ago, I sat in a meeting where a teammate was being torn apart. Their idea wasn't perfect, sure, but the criticism that day wasn't about improvement. It was about tearing down. As the jabs flew, I felt it in my gut. That tight, twisting feeling when you know you should speak up, but I didn't. I told myself, stay out of it. It's not your fight. Don't make things worse. When the meeting ended, I packed up my laptop, walked out smiling, and felt miserable inside. That moment stayed with me. Not because of what they did, but because of what I didn't do. Fast forward a few months. Another meeting. Different colleague, same dynamic. This time, my heart pounded, my palms sweated, but I opened my mouth. I said, I think we need to pause. Let's listen to what they're trying to say before we tear it down. The room went still. It wasn't a dramatic speech. It wasn't some heroic save. But it was enough to shift the energy in the room. Later, that colleague pulled me aside and said, you have no idea how much that meant. And right there, I realized something profound. When you stand up for others, you don't just help them. You become the person you respect in the mirror. That's Stoic bravery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. The Stoics weren't interested in applause. They weren't chasing clout or credit. They understood this simple truth. Courage is most pure when it's invisible. Here's the part people miss. When you speak up for someone, you're planting seeds. Seeds of trust, seeds of loyalty, seeds of self-respect, even if no one thanks you, even if no one remembers. But here's the catch. You will remember. You will walk taller. You will carry yourself differently. Because you'll know you showed up when it mattered. Let me push you deeper. Think about the people you admire most, not the celebrities, not the influencers, but the quiet giants in your life. Maybe it's the coach who defended the underdog. Maybe it's the friend who stepped in when you were being mocked. Maybe it's the stranger who said, hey, that's not okay. When someone crossed a line, these are the people who carve permanent space in our memory. And here's the bridge to carry us forward. At the end of the day, your words, your choices, your actions, especially when no one's watching, reveal the most important truth. Who are you becoming? Because respect at its core isn't about image, it's about alignment. It's about living a life where your values and your actions walk in step. And that, my friend, is the foundation we're about to close on next. Respect starts from within. So here we are, my friend. We've walked through some powerful truths today, and I want you to pause, really pause, and let this land deep. Respect isn't something you demand. It's something you become. It's not built on shouting, on proving, on outshining everyone in the room. It's built quietly, in moments no one sees, on 4 timeless pillars. Boundaries, knowing when to say no, holding the line without apology, whispering to the world, "This is my space. I decide what enters." Consistency, doing what you say you'll do, not once, not twice, but so often that your name becomes a promise. Generosity, clapping for others, even when it stings, realizing someone else's win doesn't diminish your worth. It expands your capacity to rise, courage, speaking up, standing tall, even when your heart races, even when the room goes silent, even when no one will ever know what you did. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't need anyone's permission. To start becoming this person, it begins with you, right here, right now. So, here's my challenge for you. And yes, I'm speaking straight to you. Pick one thing, just one. From everything we've explored today, maybe it's setting that boundary you've been avoiding. Maybe it's following through on one promise this week, no matter how small. Maybe it's being the first to cheer for someone you once envied. Or maybe, just maybe, it's standing up when someone's being overlooked. Whatever you choose, don't just think about it. Do it, live it, start today. Because transformation doesn't come from collecting ideas. It comes from practicing them, from showing up again and again. And here's the quiet magic. When you start respecting yourself, the world starts mirroring it back. People notice, energy shifts, your presence deepens. And as we close, here's a taste of where we're heading next. In the next episode, we'll explore the power of Stoic silence, how to command a room without uttering a word, because sometimes the most powerful person isn't the one speaking, it's the one who knows when to stay still. Now, if this episode hit home, don't just watch and scroll away. Smash that like button, not a polite tap. Punch it like you mean it. Share this video with someone who's ready to rise with you. We all know someone who needs this message. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because we're not just building a following here, we're building a movement. The next chapter, it's going to cut deeper, challenge you harder, and elevate you further. Until then, keep becoming the kind of person who doesn't just demand respect. You earn it. I'll see you in the next one.